Yo, what's up everyone? Crypto Henry here. Today I'm going to bring you why is Bitcoin going to hit $1 million and exactly when is that going to happen. And I'm going to back it up with the exact data. Why is this going to happen? So without further ado, this video is the insider's guide to Bitcoin's $1 million future. So let's get straight into it, and I'm going to show you everything, all the calculations. Why do I think that Bitcoin is going to be $1 million? So now let's be clear. I'm not the first person saying that Bitcoin will hit $1 million. Many people before me, from Balaji, Cassie Woods, Michael Saylor, Jimmy Song, Anthony Pompliano, and many others already predicted that Bitcoin price will go to $1 million. But when and why? This is what I'm going to tell you today because no one is talking about what I'm about to tell you. I've never seen anyone doing the calculations that I'm going to do, doing the math on why is Bitcoin going to $1 million. Okay, so first let's talk about the M2 money supply. M2 money supply is basically a measure of all the money that exists in the circulation in the economy. In this case, we are talking about the US economy, but all countries have a M2 money supply, including China, Japan, Europe. Europe is not a country, but the European Union, basically they have all the same currency, the euro, and also the US. And these are the four biggest economies. I'm going to cover them in this video. But basically here in this chart, you can see the M2 money supply. So this is all the money that exists in deposits, in the banks, in cash, and all these different money instruments, right? From bank accounts, the savings accounts, cash that people have in their pockets, and so on. And as you can see here, the money supply is always increasing, except very small periods of time where there are slight decreases. But this chart goes back to 1960. To be more accurate, goes back to 1958 when the M2 money supply started to be tracked. Okay, and as you can see here, we had a big surge in money supply in 2020 because of the COVID stimulus. And now, for the last 1.5 years, we have a contraction in the money supply. This money supply contraction is happening because of the quantitative tightening that the Federal Reserve is doing. But in a nutshell, there are two ways how the money supply increases. Either because the economy grows, GDP grows, the more companies grow, the more purchasing power exists and the money supply expands, and also because of money printing. And the Federal Reserve, as you know, loves printing money. Okay, but what happens when countries print too much money? What happens when the money supply increases a lot? Well, basically, people and institutions will have to allocate this money supply to investable assets. So this is the average portfolio, right, in the US that individuals in institutions have. And as you can see here, a good part of this portfolio is US equity, so US stocks, non-US stocks, US bonds, a small part in cash, around 10%. But there is also a percentage of this, I don't know exactly how much, but there is a percentage that is dedicated to crypto, okay? This is crypto. And even more so if we have the Bitcoin ETFs, the Bitcoin spot ETFs, which will open doors to institutions to invest in Bitcoin. So why is this important? Well, because part of the increase in money supply, and now we have a contraction, but after this contraction, when things come back to normal, once interest rates go back to normal, we'll have a huge expansion in money supply. And that expansion in money supply will, in part, come here to the crypto market cap, and it will increase a lot the Bitcoin price. So let me give you here an example. In orange, you have the M2 money supply, while in blue, you have the S&P 500, the 500 biggest companies in the US listed in the stock market. And as you can see here, the more the M2 money supply goes up, the more the stock market will go up. It's simply because there is more money circulating in the economy, companies make more money, but also because the more money circulating in the economy, people need to do something with this money. And part of this money will go, as we saw before, right? Part of that money will go to investable assets, including the stock market and including crypto. That's why if you zoom out, the stock market pretty much only goes up. Of course, we have crashes. 2008 crash, the stock market declined over 50%. 2022 stock market crash, the stock market declined like 20%. But if you zoom out, the stock market goes up in the long term because we have increase in money supply, and part of this money will simply flow to the stock market. And why is this important to crypto? Give me just a minute and I will show you why. It's also important to tell you that this is not only in the US. So you have here the four biggest economies. And as you can see, all of them, the money supply increases. US, China, Japan, and in the European Union, the euro, all of them increase. And if we zoom in here, you see that lately the M2 money supply in the US is decreasing, Europe is also decreasing, but Japan and China are printing money like crazy, either because their economy is growing or because they are just printing money. And I think the second hypothesis is the most likely. But what's going to happen is that sooner or later, Europe and the US will also start printing more money. They will increase the money supply. And once all these countries are simultaneously printing money and increasing the money supply, well, part of that money will be allocated to investable assets, stock market, and also Bitcoin and crypto. When will this happen? Okay, so here in blue, we have the M2 money supply, which has been going down, but it will probably start going up again because in this baby blue, we have the inflation rate. Inflation rate, as you see, is declining. Here we have the interest rates, the Fed funds rate. Because the inflation rate is going down, they soon will start turning down also the Fed funds rate. And once the Fed funds rate starts to go down, the M2 money supply will start increasing. And this might take 1 year, 2 years, I don't know exactly, but the market is already expecting this and it will for sure happen. So the US is about to turn on the tap and start flooding the market with more money. So here again, you have the Fed funds rate and the predictions, the market expectations is that the Fed funds rate will start to decline. As you can see here, these predictions will start to decline in around 2025. So maybe in 2 years from now, it will be around 3%. Once you reach this point, full blown bull market and market being flooded with M2 money supply, and part of this money will go to the stock market, part of it will go to Bitcoin, which leads us to the Bitcoin price prediction of $1 million that we have, right? But why $1 million? I have the exact math to show you why do I think that Bitcoin price will hit $1 million and exactly when is it going to happen? Well, not really exactly, but approximately. No one has a crystal ball. I cannot tell you that it's going to happen in this specific day, but I can tell you approximately when. Okay, let me walk you through the math and why and when will Bitcoin hit $1 million. Okay, I collected some data and looked at the charts. And over the last market cycle, the M2 money supply increased by 43%. At the same time, the Bitcoin price increased by 1,200%. This means that the Bitcoin price increased by 27% for every 1% of M2 money supply expansion. So every 1% of new money in the market, Bitcoin price has increased on average 27%. Of course, there are many other variables, okay? I'm not saying that there are no other variables. There are other economic indicators. There are wars and pandemics and regulations, and all these things impact the Bitcoin price. But if we remove all the other variables and we have only the M2 money supply, Bitcoin will go up 27% for every 1% that the money supply expands. Okay, seeing this, what happens if over the next 10 years, the M2 money supply increases as much as it has increased over the last 10 years? So money supply, as you saw before, for 50 years or 60 years has been constantly increasing more or less the same. So if the money supply increases by approximately 119% over the next 10 years, which was what increased over the last 10 years, and if Bitcoin price continues to increase 27% for each 1% that the money supply increases, then over the next 10 years, we'll have a Bitcoin increased of 3,320%. Considering the current price of Bitcoin is $30,000, 30,000 times 3,320%, this will be $996,000, pretty much $1 million in 10 years. Okay, so this is not a very accurate prediction at all, but this kind of will give you an idea that indeed for every X increase in money supply, part of that money will go to Bitcoin because people believe in Bitcoin, because people, institutions believe more and more in Bitcoin. So part of the money that is circulating will go to Bitcoin. And if they continue to increase the money supply, just like they have increased over the last 50, 60 years, well, then the Bitcoin price is likely to go to $1 million because, as you can see here, part of that money will go to Bitcoin. Of course, again, there are many other variables, other economic indicators, regulations, wars, and so on. But if everything remains the same, this is basically the reason why I believe that Bitcoin price might go to $1 million in approximately 10 years, meaning in around the year of 2033. Now, of course, this is not financial advice, and this is a very long term prediction that has into consideration only the M2 money supply. If one day governments all around the world come and ban Bitcoin, or if there is a huge world war or things like that, Bitcoin probably will not go up as much. There are many other things and uncertainties in the market. But you can see it this way. If Bitcoin was a lab rat and you could control the Bitcoin environment and isolate all the other things, then the money to supply will have this impact in the Bitcoin price. So don't go all in Bitcoin because, as you can see here, by the way, there is huge movements in Bitcoin. Sometimes Bitcoin price can go down like 70 something percent, like it went in 2022. But in a long term, it's quite likely that the price will go up. Of course, need to have into consideration all the other variables. All right, that's all for this video. If you found value in this video, please give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.